Welcome back to the deep dive. Get ready to sink your teeth into something truly delicious today.
A sweet and surprisingly deep journey, for sure.
It absolutely is. Today, we're diving into Japanese Castella. It's a beloved sweet, but, well, it has a much richer story than you might first imagine.
Yeah.
We've pulled together some sources that walk us through its unexpected origins, how it sort of took on a life of its own in Japan,
Uh,
what exactly makes it so incredibly popular, and even, highlight some famous places known for perfecting it.
right. And our mission with this deep dive, it's really to go beyond just telling you what Castella is. We want to cut through the layers.
Yeah, like slicing into it.
Exactly. Slice into it and pull out those most important nuggets of knowledge in those aha moments.
Okay.
So you can walk away feeling, properly well informed about this unique piece of Japanese culinary culture.
And I love that one of our sources starts by setting the scene, bringing in the classic Japanese snack time, often around 3
Oh
p.m.
yeah, the oyatsu time.
Right. There's this warm, relatable memory for many people, maybe waiting for that time, perhaps at a grandparent's house and having Castella served. It just immediately gives this sweet a personal, sort of comforting connection before we even get into the history.
Exactly. This isn't just about ingredients and techniques. It's about understanding why something seemingly simple holds such, well, significance in Japanese households and culture.
Okay, let's unpack this history first then, because it starts somewhere pretty unexpected for a Japanese sweet. Where did Castella even come from?
Okay, so here's the first surprise. It didn't actually start in Japan.
No.
No.
Yeah.
It's believed Castella was introduced by the Portuguese back in the 16th century.
The 16th century, wow.
Yeah, this was during the Nanban trade period, when European traders first started arriving in Japan.
The Portuguese, that's fascinating. I mean, I would have just assumed it was a purely Japanese invention.
Not at all. They were the key connection. And Nagasaki, well, it was the main port open to foreign trade back then.
Right.
So it became the main entry point for Castella into Japan. And that's precisely why Nagasaki is still so strongly associated with it today. It's, still a famous Nagasaki specialty.
So we're talking the Azuchi Momoyama period, late 16th century, around the time of figures like Nobunaga Oda and Hideyoshi Toyotomi. That's quite the historical pedigree for a cake.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And from Nagasaki, well, it didn't stay confined there.
Okay.
It began to spread inland during the Edo period.
Okay.
We have records showing it reaching places like Nagoya by 1644
Nagoya, okay.
and Kyoto by 1681. And what's truly fascinating here, really interesting, is that by the mid-Edo period, Castella was considered refined enough, prestigious enough, to be served at Edo Castle itself for the reception of imperial envoys.
Served to imperial envoys at Edo Castle. Okay, now that is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
So it wasn't just some fleeting foreign curiosity. It found its way into the very highest levels of Japanese society and confectionery remarkably quickly.
It absolutely did. And that rapid acceptance really speaks to its appeal and how quickly Japanese artisans started to engage with it to make it their own.
Which leads perfectly to the next point. With that kind of history, you might think the Castella served today, or maybe even back then, is identical to that original Portuguese version. Is it?
Well, this is where the unique Japanese evolution really kicks in, and it's another key insight.
Okay.
In Portugal today, there isn't actually a specific confection named Castella.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The cake, believed to be its ancestor, is called piondeiro, and it was significantly simpler.
Simpler how? What was the main difference?
Well, piondeiro was basically just whisked eggs and sugar with flour and then baked. Crucially, the original didn't have any butter or added fats.
Okay, similar to Japanese Castella in that way.
Right, similar in that respect. But the texture, the method, the final product, it was quite different. More rustic, maybe less refined than what Castella became.
So the Japanese took this basic concept and just transformed it.
Exactly. They didn't just replicate it. They adapted the methods, the techniques, the whole taste profile to suit Japanese preferences. It evolved into that characteristic rectangular shape we see today. And through, well, centuries of continuous technical improvements by Japanese artisans, it became something else entirely.
How so?
More beautiful in appearance, definitely softer, and much, much more moist than its European ancestor.
And how did they get that moisture, that characteristic moisture that's such a hallmark of Japanese Castella?
That's a really significant Japanese innovation, particularly associated with Nagasaki Castella.
Okay.
It's the intentional use of syrup, mizuame, usually.
Syrup, right.
This practice apparently began in Western Japan during the Meiji period, so starting around 1868.
Right.
And it's the syrup that really gives Castella that distinctive, incredibly moist texture people know and love today. It was a technical refinement aimed squarely at improving the eating experience.
That's a big change from just eggs, sugar, and flour. Okay, so it arrived, it was adapted, it was refined. What makes this uniquely Japanese version so enduringly popular, then? Our sources point to, like, three main attractions.
They do, yeah. The first one is its gentle flavor and elegant sweetness.
Gentle flavor.
Yeah, because it's made with plenty of eggs and sugar, it has a rich depth, but it's often noted for not being overwhelmingly sweet, like, say, mini Western cakes.
Right, it feels lighter somehow, less heavy.
Precisely. Our sources highlight that this moderate sweetness makes it perfect for tea time, often called tea cakes, actually. Skillfully baked Castella, it has this lovely glossy brown top, that characteristic moist and mild texture inside, and a really balanced sweetness. And for traditional Nagasaki Castella, there's that unique added attraction.
Ah, the crunchy bit.
Yeah, the crunchy texture of the coarse sugar left on the bottom, zarami sugar.
Zarame. Yes, we absolutely have to unpack that mystery later. It's such a distinct feature.
We definitely will. And just quickly, there's also a premium variation called Gosen Castella.
Gosan.
Yeah, Gosenyaki. It uses a specific 5:3 ratio of egg yolk to egg white.
Oh, more yolk.
Exactly. That higher proportion of yolks gives it an even richer flavor and a more luxurious, almost denser texture.
Okay, so gentle flavor, elegant sweetness, perfect for tea. Got it. What's the second major appeal?
Wide variety. I mean, while plain traditional version is a classic, Castella has shown incredible versatility.
Yeah.
It's embraced a huge range of flavors over time.
Like what?
Well, you find traditional Japanese flavors like matcha,
Of course.
anko, which is sweet red bean paste, yuzu, that's citrus fruit, and hojicha, roasted green tea.
Matcha seems like such a natural fit, with its slight bitterness balancing the sweet.
It is. The source mentions matcha Castella is really popular for exactly that reason. The bitterness balances the sweetness, plus it gives it that beautiful green color.
Great.
But you also see Western-inspired flavors now, things like chocolate, cheese, even coffee.
Oh.
And using different ingredients like wasban sugar, that's a traditional fine-grained Japanese sugar, gives a really elegant, mild sweetness. Honey Castella is famous for being exceptionally moist. The sources even mention more modern innovations like a Castella roll. It's wrapped in something like dorayaki dough, you know, the pancake stuff.
Like a Swiss roll, but with Castella?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even Castella sandwiches with jam and white chocolate filling.
Wow. Okay, it's clearly not limited to just the original recipe anymore. That's quite the evolution. And the third major appeal.
Its value as a souvenir or gift. This is a big one.
Ah, practicality.
Partly, yes. Most Castella can be stored at room temperature, which makes it incredibly practical for travel, for sharing, or for giving as a gift.
That convenience factor definitely makes a big difference when you're thinking about bringing something home from a trip.
Absolutely. And Castella from famous, long-established stores, particularly in Nagasaki, you hear names like Fukusaya, Schwauken, also Mai Bindo in Tokyo is mentioned. Well, getting Castella from these places is seen as a really special, thoughtful souvenir or gift. High-end versions are often individually wrapped, sometimes pre-cut for easy serving.
It's handy.
And presented in beautiful, often quite historic-looking packaging. Makes them perfect for formal occasions or as, tokens of respect.
So it's not just a snack you pick up at the station. It's something that carries a real sense of history and thoughtfulness when you give it as a gift.
Precisely. And these stores, some with like over 400 years of history, offer a connection to that deep tradition.
400 years?
Yeah. The sources even talk about some really rare, highly sought-after varieties. They call them Fantastic Castella.
Fantastic Castella.
With waiting lists that can be up to 6 months long just to get a reservation.
6 months for cake? Wow.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And they're particularly popular with foreign tourists who are looking to experience a genuine piece of traditional Japanese confectionery culture.
Speaking of those famous stores, our sources definitely highlight a few specific ones. Why are these particular places so significant in the world of Castella?
Well, these are really key examples of those historical, long-established stores, mainly from Nagasaki, that have truly defined and preserved the tradition of Castella making for centuries.
Okay, let's start with Fukusaya. What makes them stand out?
Fukusaya.
Right.
Founded way back in 1624.
1624.
Yeah, so over 400 years of history. They even hold the registered trademark Castella Honk, which basically means like Castella head family or the main lineage.
Okay, the original.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
They're famous for their strict adherence to what they call the one-man consistency principle.
One-man consistency. What's that?
It means a single artisan handles the entire process for a batch, totally by hand, from cracking the eggs, mixing the batter, all the way through baking without using any electric mixers.
By hand, without a mixer. In this day and age, that sounds incredibly labor-intensive, requires immense skill, surely.
It really does. And according to the sources, this dedication to a 400-year-old manual process is said to create a unique texture and consistency that's just impossible to get with modern equipment.
Interesting.
Their Castella uses no honey or milk, focusing purely on exceptionally rich, thick eggs. Their special Gosanyaki Castella is a prime example, using that high yolk-to-white ratio for extra moisture and richness. They also do modern things like bite-sized Castella cubes, which are pretty popular.
Okay, so Fukusaya is like the embodiment of ancient, rigorous artisan tradition. What about Bunmeido Sohanton? They seem very widely recognized, almost like a household name.
They are highly recognized, yeah. Probably the most well-known name nationally. Bunmeido actually branched out into separate companies across Japan over the years.
Oh, okay.
But the original head family is still Bunmeido Sohanton, based in Nagasaki. Many people in Japan instantly recognize them from their famous commercial song.
Oh, yeah.
Castella Ichiban, Denwan Niban, Sanji no Yatsu wa Bunmeido. Castella first, phone second, 3 o'clock snack is Bunmeido.
Huh. That kind of jingle definitely sticks with you. What's unique about their process?
Well, Bunmeido Sohanton uses a unique, well-researched process refined over generations. They focus on carefully stirring the dough and using specific baking techniques passed down through the family.
Right.
They're known for achieving a really high-quality, almost melt-in-your-mouth texture. And yes, they also have unique modern products like that Castilla roll we mentioned, wrapping the cake in that soft dorayaki-like dough. Makes it easy to eat on the go.
Okay, so Fukusaya, strict handmade tradition, Bunmeido, widely recognized name, refined process. What about Shukin?
Shukin, right. They also boast a significant history, dating back over 300 years to 1681.
Another long one.
Yes. And here's a truly fascinating historical bit the source shares. Confectioners from Portugal.
From Portugal, the originators.
Yes. They apparently once visited Shukin specifically to learn their Japanese methods of making Castella.
Wait, the people who introduced it came back to learn from the Japanese? That's a spectacular reversal.
Isn't it?
It really highlights how completely and skillfully the Japanese adapted and, frankly, mastered this sweet.
It absolutely does. It's a powerful insight into the level of mastery Japanese artisans achieved. Shukin's Castella is also hand-baked, piece by piece, by artisans who are skilled at adapting their process slightly based on subtle things like the weather, the humidity, the ambient temperature.
Wow.
Resulting in a simple yet deeply profound flavor. They are a bit less widespread than Bunmeido, mainly having stores only in Nagasaki and Fukuoka, which kind of adds to their rarity.
And they have a unique flavor too, right? Something about chocolate.
Yes, exactly. Shukin is known for their original chocolate-flavored Castella called Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Developed back in the Meiji era, apparently, and it was quite a rarity at the time. The source describes it as having a mild, aromatic, rich taste that, surprisingly, goes well even with Japanese green tea.
It's incredible how each of these long-established stores, while sharing that common root, has developed its own distinct history, method, and signature product. Okay, now, let's circle back to something we teased earlier.
Ah, the sugar.
Yes! That coarse, crunchy zarami sugar layer at the bottom of traditional Nagasaki Castella. What is that, and why is it there? It feels like it must be more than just texture.
Okay, hold on, because this is absolutely one of those promised aha moments or sources uncovered. That sugar layer isn't just for taste or texture, or at least it didn't start that way in traditional Castella.
Yeah.
No. In the Edo period, it served a critical historical function. It was preservative.
Preservative. Seriously, the crunch is food safety tech.
Exactly. Think about it. When Castella was transported long distances from Nagasaki to places like Kyoto and Edo, often by ship, the journey could take weeks.
Right, no refrigeration back then.
Exactly. They needed a way to make it last without spoiling. At the time, Nagasaki had access to plenty of sugar imported through the trade port. So embedding this layer of coarse sugar was a method to prevent bacterial growth during that long transport. It was a form of practical wisdom, really. Adapting available resources, sugar, to the challenges of shipping perishable goods.
So the delightful crunch we experience today started as a clever way to stop cake going bad centuries ago. That is genuinely surprising. I had no idea.
It is, isn't it? The technique involved apparently slightly grinding the sharp corners off the coarse sugar crystals,
Okay.
blending some into the batter, but then intentionally leaving a layer of these slightly ground, unmelted crystals at the bottom during baking. It requires a really skilled artisan to manage this process correctly to get it just right.
And the sources mention another benefit that the sugar layer provides over time.
Yes, there's a secondary benefit. That sugar layer gradually dissolves over time, pulling moisture, which actually helps to make the Castella even more moist as it sits for a day or two.
Ah, so it improves with age, slightly.
In a way, yes. So, while its original purpose was preservation, today it's primarily celebrated as that key textural accent and a defining characteristic of traditional Nagasaki Castella.
Knowing that history completely changes how I'll think about that crunchy bottom layer next time I have some, that's a fantastic insight. Really
It
cool.
adds a whole new layer of appreciation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Right.
So now that we know its deep story and what makes it special, how should we actually enjoy a Castella? Are there specific recommendations or traditional pairings?
Yeah, the sources offer some excellent suggestions for, maximizing the enjoyment. First, they really emphasize pairing it with beverages.
Okay.
Castella pairs wonderfully with drinks. The slight bitterness of coffee is said to balance the sweetness nicely,
Uh-huh.
while the refreshing aroma of black tea can actually enhance the sweetness. And Japanese teas like sencha, hojicha, that roasted green tea, or matcha are also highly recommended. They provide a really refreshing aftertaste that helps cleanse the palate after the sweetness.
Perfect for that classic 3 p.m. tea time we mentioned right at the start. Oyatsu.
Exactly. Its moderate sweetness makes it ideal for entertaining guests. And pairing it specifically with Japanese tea is also highlighted as a lovely way for foreign visitors to experience traditional Japanese confectionery culture authentically.
What about getting a bit more creative? Are there ways to use it beyond just, a simple slice?
Oh yeah, the source suggests enjoying arrangements. You don't just have to eat it plain.
Like what?
A popular method is apparently baking it lightly with butter.
Baking it with butter.
Yeah, which gives the outside a wonderful crispy texture while keeping the inside fluffy. It completely transforms the eating experience, apparently. Makes it feel like a different kind of snack altogether.
Hmm.
Or you can just top a slice with things like ice cream or red bean paste and cocoa.
Classic pairing, ice cream and cake.
Right. Other delicious additions mentioned include yogurt, honey, or jam. The source even notes that Taiwanese Castella, which is kind of a derivation.
That really fluffy kind.
Well, yeah, that one. It's often enjoyed both freshly baked and warm, or chilled. Shows how the whole concept continues to evolve and adapt.
Baking it with butter sounds absolutely delicious. It makes me want to try that immediately. It has a whole new dimension.
It certainly sounds like it does.
Yeah.
And finally, a great way to really appreciate Castella is by comparing various types.
Ah,
Trying different variations like that richer Gosan Castella, or exploring the wide range of flavors available now, matcha, chocolate, etc.
right.
Matching your drink to the flavor can also be fun.
Yeah.
Like, Japanese teas often pair well with the Japanese flavors, while coffee or black tea might suit the Western flavors better. And for anyone visiting Nagasaki, comparing Castella from the different famous stores Fukusaya and Maido, Shuken is highly recommended. It's a direct way to dive into the local food culture and taste the subtle differences that centuries of tradition create.
Uh-huh.
The source even mentioned luxurious versions, sometimes adorned with gold leaf, for really special gifts, adding another level of artistry.
So you can go from the simplest traditional slice to a gilded, luxurious version, or even bake it into something completely new. That's quite a range. And you mentioned earlier that getting your hands on Castella from these famous stores isn't limited to traveling all the way to Japan.
That's right, good news there. The source confirms that Castella from many of these famous stores is available online now, making it pretty accessible globally, even if you can't visit Nagasaki yourself.
So what does this all mean, really? We started with what seemed like a simple cake brought over by Portuguese traders centuries ago, and we saw it undergo this remarkable transformation. It was adapted, refined in Nagasaki by generations of incredibly dedicated artisans, becoming this cherished symbol of Japanese confectionery craftsmanship.
Yeah.
We learned about its unique appeals, that gentle flavor, the incredible variety it now offers, its value as a really meaningful gift. And we even uncovered that amazing, surprising history behind the crunchy sugar layer at the bottom.
The preservative.
The preservative. It's just such a blend of Deep history, meticulous craftsmanship, and continuously evolving flavors, all wrapped up in this elegant and seemingly simple sweet.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the story of Castella really reflects Japan's broader history
Hmm.
of taking foreign concepts and meticulously adapting them, refining them, elevating them
Right.
to create something entirely new and uniquely Japanese.
Yeah.
It really demonstrates how even a familiar food item can carry centuries of story, innovation, and technique within it.
Eh.
So much depth.
This really raises an important question for you to think about. Considering this incredible journey and the profound evolution of Castella from a simple Portuguese cake to this complex, culturally significant Japanese sweet, with a fascinating historical secret hiding at its base, what other seemingly simple foods that you encounter in your daily life might hold a rich hidden history just waiting to be discovered? And maybe, how does knowing the story behind that sugar at the bottom actually change the experience of tasting that crunch next time?
Something to ponder perhaps next time you reach for a treat.
Absolutely. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the wonderful world of Japanese Castella.